everyone. In this video, I want to talk about the level of the game of life that we're playing at as a human species right now, the object of the game at this level, and how current astronomy in 2022 is directing us through the leveling up process. So I'll start with a thesis, I guess, and a bit of context in this video, and then I'll break down how I think the current astrology is illustrating the thesis in 2 subsequent videos. So this will be a series. All right, let's jump right into some mind-bendy theory, answering some really big questions about why we're here. The lineage of mankind to which we all belong seems to be in the process of tying up the end of what I'm calling a mother thread, which has been guiding us through this grand evolutionary cycle since the last series of worldwide cataclysms spoken of in every ancient mythology. This series of cataclysms, usually referred to as the flood, actually happened over generations, marking a confluence age in our evolutionary cycle. These upsets were like labor pains from which the current iteration of man was born. They were caused, on one level, by a shifting dynamic between Earth and the cosmos, which, by the natural law as above so below, meant a corresponding shift in man's design, because we are reflections of the cosmos. There have been many more minor shifts or minor confluence ages in the form of upsets since then, from which different branches of our lineage were born. What I'm calling the mother thread, a term which is a conflation of several dominant understandings across wisdom traditions, is the idea, the through line, or the destiny which has linked all branches of the current lineage of humans on Earth, and speaks to the evolutionary level of the game that we're playing at. A mother thread is born from a new evolutionary struggle. The mother thread of our lineage emerges through the struggle to reconcile destiny and free will via the rational mind. The rational mind is the thing that defines the current iteration of man. It's what makes us different from the iteration before us. The iteration before ours was involved in seeding the rational mind, a process that would have been concurrent with finishing their own mother thread. A product of finishing their own mother thread, really. Evolution is obviously a gradual process reflected on many different levels, but it's ultimately driven by the expansion of consciousness. And so the expansion of consciousness is the aim of any mother thread. Consciousness, on whole, is the singular cause that sets all effects into motion. It's the singular subjective function from which all streams of consciousness are derived. The rational mind is the current way in which the universal consciousness is expanding itself via humans on Earth. If you look at a differential equation, most people try not to, I imagine. But it really most basically articulates this model of a singular cause that sets into motion and determines all effects. During life, we make choices from an infinite set of possibilities within a predetermined framework that will evolve us by default eventually. But here's the thing. While this is saying that predestination is a thing, our choices within that predestined design not only dictate our personal experience on Earth and how our shared reality presents itself, but our choices also contribute to the predestined design itself. And this can be so because the choices we make on earth, our thoughts, words, and deeds, are inherently creative. And so they are contributing to that causal function from which all effects are derived. Now, a materialist who looks at differential equations may come to an opposite conclusion about them. To them, a differential equation is proof that we never really have a choice. Our choice is always determined. We only have the illusion of a choice. Because to a materialist, our objective reality is the truth. And the illusion is subjectivity. But that's where they got it flip-flopped, because it's actually subjective reality that is the truth. And objective reality is the illusion. I don't want to fight about this in the comments. So this is how it can be said that we, the royal we, create our own destiny. Each of us experiencing our own articulation of that shared destiny during each life lived. That royal we includes our ancestors, not only from this lineage of the human race, but from the race that preceded ours. The process of living our destiny relies on, then, the ability to surrender to the flow more than anything else, letting the destiny we already created in the quantum sense guide us along, lead the way, rather than forcing a course of action. And this is my understanding of what indigenous systems mean when they talk about ancestral guidance. It's the dialogue we have with our destiny, a destiny we created with or via our ancestors, depending on how you want to look at it. And that destiny is our higher mind. So that's my articulation of how destiny and free will can be reconciled theoretically. But it's not enough to just comprehend and accept this idea. If we want to move to the next level of the game, we have to integrate the mother thread of our race. We have to weave that understanding into every moment, putting that knowing into action so that we can not only recognize and go with our individual destinies, but optimize them. We can play out our destinies at many different levels, in a state of bliss or in a state of resistance. If we're resisting the flow every step of the way because of fear or low self-worth, for instance, our destinies will be constantly jolting us onto our path, which, depending on our personality, could cause us even more resistance and make us feel a victim of our destiny and maybe even want to walk in the opposite direction. And remember, every move we make in our life is creating our next destiny, if we're speaking in linear terms. Now, the rational mind is a bridge that is also an obstacle during this process. An obstacle because the rational mind can easily entrap us inside itself and have us believing we are apart from a universal consciousness, that original function from which we're derived. Our rational mind, of which the ego is a part, is the thing that allows us to experience ourselves as independent or separate entities living inside an objective reality. rather than emanations of a collective subjective consciousness creating the boundaries of our apparent objective reality. Unlike the mineral, plant, and animal kingdoms that function without a rational mind, and so are, barring anomalies, bound to their alignment with the natural order, bound to the higher potential of their destiny and ours, we, as humans, get to choose during this life to live in harmony with the natural order or not. And this is what makes being human real hard. It's not easy to choose, especially when we have been alienated from the natural order. We don't know how to choose in alignment with it. We don't understand the rules of this game. They've been obscured. Now, the rational mind is a bridge because it is through the experience of separation and individuation, the experience of solitude, of fully exploring our own designs through this sensual adventure game that is often lonely, that we find our way back to the intuitive understanding of the grand design, the natural order, which resides within us and must be understood experientially. And once we come back, once we recognize again the natural order through the process of individuation, we can then start choosing, making choices, creating in this realm in harmony with that order. If we were to all do this, it would bring us into a new level of creative agency. The object of this level of the game is, in my mind, letting a perfect marriage of free will and destiny infuse every choice we make. In this way, we can reestablish an order on earth that reflects this marriage. And this will require a revolutionary shift in how we function, because when we start getting closer to the natural order, we have to pull away from societal order, because we'll see that society is moving in or functions in direct opposition to the natural order, laughably so. This process will involve reintegrating a lot of ancestral knowledge, which includes systems and methods that would blow most people's minds that they even exist. Practical methods that we can implement toward this end, both practical and what we would call magical. So much of the operation manual for this realm has been kept from us. It exists in every layer of our environment, but we have to have eyes to see. And that requires the process of initiation. And our ancestors knew that. Many of the elders of different cultures that have preserved this knowledge that I'm talking about speak of this time that we're in as one of revelation, a time when this hidden knowledge needs to be brought back out into the light for all to see, for all to hear. And after being protected against all odds for millennia. And why did it need protecting? Because there are always groups serving the lower polarity, because that's the game that we design for ourselves, who want to wipe out those peoples who have preserved this knowledge for the collective good, while they, the lower polarity, use this knowledge for themselves in order to consolidate power. Simple as that. The playbook does not change. That's how the lower polarity functions until we are able to see through it. And then it'll have to up its game to keep up with us. But too many people are still fooled. Those people know they're being fooled, but they don't quite understand how yet. Plenty do. but there are plenty of smart, open-minded people who are still falling for the illusion, falling for the lower polarity. I'll talk more about this as we open up the astrology, which I think we'll do now. So I'm going to close this video here, and we'll jump into the first transit that I'd like to dissect in the next video. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe if you're interested in any material that is along the lines of what I've just been talking about. I have so much I want to share, and not all of it will be heady and theoretical. All right, with that, so much love, and see you on the flip side.